Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Divers Ready. My name's James. This is part 2 of 2 on mistakes new dive instructors are prone to make. In part 1 of this 2-part video, which I will link up above there somewhere, we covered breaking standards accidentally, teaching to the minimum, lack of skill repetition, neglecting students' anxieties, not continuing their own education as an instructor, and fear of making corrections. Well, I've got 6 more mistakes that I can hopefully help new dive instructors avoid. And again, if your course director or instructor trainer is showing you this video as part of your instructor development, you owe them an adult beverage. Kudos to them. Let's dive in. Feeling pressure to certify. A well-designed course or exam in any topic should have a pass rate of around 75 to 80%. Imagine if scuba diving kept such a standard. One thing I distinctly remember my instructor trainer telling me that has always stuck with me even to this day is every student you certify at whatever level will have your name and your brand on their certification card. Diving is a small world. Your former students are your ambassadors. If you're sending out undertrained divers who are kicking coral and dragging fins and terrible buoyancy control, subpar skills, you're sending those people out into the world, you're not going to be able to build a good reputation for quality instruction. At the very least. At the worst, it's dangerous and you can hurt people. There's a lot of pressure on instructors to issue certifications. Dive shop owners don't want their customers to be disappointed or feel like failures. Training agencies trying to incentivize instructors into issuing certs by offering rewards or recognition for achieving a certain number of certifications issued. Hey, if you issue 300 certs this calendar year, you'll get a Platinum and Gold, Dip, Diamond Ambassador, Extreme Pro Instructor Award. It's all utter bullshit. Listen to me now. How many certifications you issue has no relationship on how good of an instructor you are. The only thing that tells me how good of an instructor you are is the quality of the students you produce. I typically issue about 50 or 60 certifications a year. I also only teach privately, usually 1-to-1, sometimes 1-to-2. And my courses are quite long. So yeah, 50, 60 certifications is about my average per year. If you take into account a certain percentage of students who don't yet meet the required level for certification, it averages out to about 1 certification per week, give or take. I know other instructors who are issuing 50 certifications a month, but I'm fortunate. I don't have a boss telling me who I have to pass, and I don't care whether my training agency gives me any kind of recognition, which they never have done so far. They work for me. I don't work for them. Which brings me to number 2, misunderstanding the instructor-agency relationship. It took me a long time to wash the dive agency Kool-Aid, marketing juice off of me. Here are some facts that might help you get to a higher place faster. You are not employed by your training agency. You pay the agency, they do not pay you. Their products support your training programs, not the other way around. You can switch between agencies really easily anytime your current agency fails to meet your expectations. Your students care a great deal more about the quality of your instruction than they do about which agency's logo ends up on their card. All agencies have good and bad instructors. Nobody is batting 1,000. Look, just don't buy into the marketing efforts. Don't put on LinkedIn or Facebook that you work for Paddy or SDI or whoever unless you're actually receiving a regular paycheck from them. I wish that the training agencies stopped wasting their marketing budgets, beating their chests and trying to steal instructors from other agencies, and instead put that money into updating and improving the quality of their manuals and their products. That would make everyone much happier, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. Number 3, not focusing on the fundamentals. When you're a newer instructor, it is easy to get lost in those instructor slates with all those skills listed out on both sides of I need to do this on dive 1 and dive 2 and da-da-da. Seems like a lot to get through and a lot to memorize and a lot to work on. A leap it took me a really long time to understand is that really there are only 5 major skills to scuba diving, and that if your student can't get those 5 first, there is no point moving on to more complex but minor skills. It took me a while for that to click, and eventually I got it. When I say there are only 5 skills, it's breathing, buoyancy, trim, propulsion, and communication. We've talked about those many times on this channel. For whatever level you're instructing, your student needs to learn or demonstrate control or mastery of these 5 skills before you can move on to course-specific skills, sharing gases or removing masks or whatever it may be. If you can make this leap, you're going to make your instructing easier and at the same time produce better student divers. I've learned more from other instructors than I ever learned from my instructor trainers. I had, for example, an instructor working for me once who was briefing 2 open water students before their first pool session and said something like, look, we're going to keep this super simple. First, I'm going to teach you to dive, and then I'm going to teach you all the required skills. I stole that, and it's been in my instructor repertoire ever since. And what they meant is, first I'm going to teach you how to do buoyancy, breathing, trim and propulsion, and then we're going to move on and do mask flooding and reg recovery and all the other things. But first I'm actually going to teach you how to dive in the swimming pool and get you neutrally buoyant. And I just love the simplicity with which they worded that. Number 4, failing to modernize. SCUBA, as with all technology, moves forward. Part of your job as an instructor should be to keep up with the times, both in your personal gear selections and your teaching methods. I'll give you an example from my world of Miami technical diving. Incredibly, the standards for entry-level technical diving still do not require the use of a D.S.D.O dive computer. According to TDI Decompression Procedure Standards 8.9, required equipment, point number 2, depth gauge and automatic bottom timer, and or dive computer. Or a dive computer? A dive computer is optional if you have a bottom timer and a depth gauge. Is that what you're telling me? Are you mad? It's 2025. If my students showed up and I issued them a analog depth gauge and bottom timer and said, let's go D.S.D.O diving, they'd think I'd lost my damn mind. What? You should be using the best available equipment and modern tools. Shearwater, Garmin, Halcyon, minimum 2 computers. Going back to my point in part 1 of this video, the only way you can stay up to date with trends and technology is to stay educated on available products and then continue to reinvest and update your equipment from time to time. If you showed up for an open water class today and your instructor got out a PADI RDP chart and a horse collar BCD, you should turn and run the other way. Number 5, showboating. Of course, dive instructors need to be role models and set an example. Of course, you need to have demonstration quality dive skills. But remember, your students are paying you to make them better divers, not to show off your party tricks. If they're struggling with skills, your students really won't care if you can blow a perfect bubble ring. We've all done it. I'm no different. Every dive instructor has gone through a bubble ring phase. How about spending that time working on their skill development instead? Don't get me wrong, courses can and should be fun. You should be positive and enthusiastic and supportive. Showboating doesn't fit into any of those categories. Your students are paying you to educate them, not to watch your piss weak circus routine like you're a hibachi chef at Benihana. There's a time and a place for showboating, and that is fun diving with your friends. I know, bar humbug. Moving on. I said what I said. Number 6. Selling stupid courses. I'm guessing by now you've probably seen our video on which specialty classes have value and which are utter crap. If you haven't, I will link it up above there. It's one of our earliest and most watched videos. But just because you're qualified to teach a course doesn't mean you should offer it. If any of my open water students turned around after their course and asked for an additional buoyancy class, I would probably die from the shame of it. Just fill my pockets with rocks and go walk into the ocean. So I don't offer buoyancy specialty classes. Now that doesn't mean I won't help you work on your buoyancy if you are undertrained by your previous instructors, but the training agencies aren't going to get a slice of it. We will work on those skills during a guided dive. You don't need a manual to work on buoyancy, you don't need a certification card to work on buoyancy, you just need to go and work on buoyancy. And if I can help you, I will. I'm qualified to teach what used to be called deep air, before they decided that sounded stupid and terrifying and changed the name to extended range. I don't offer extended range because I choose not to take students to 185 feet with 0 helium in the mix. It's outside my personal boundaries of safety and common sense. I'm also qualified, and I don't know how this happened, to teach underwater photography and videography specialties. I don't even remember how I got those cards. Did I opt for them? Did they just get sent to me with a copy of Scuba Diver magazine? I don't know. Again, these just show up sometimes. I've never done an instructor workshop on these subjects. Now, I choose not to offer or teach these classes because I personally don't think that my skills in this area are good enough to warrant me teaching those students, even though I'm technically qualified to do so. There are much better people in the world that you can learn photography and video from. I guess what I'm trying to say is your menu of course offerings should reflect your strengths as an instructor and fit within your parameters of acceptable risk. Don't teach stuff you're not comfortable with just because the agency issued you an instructor card for it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you as always so much for watching. I hope this helps you. If you're a newer instructor, welcome to the family. I hope this pair of videos helps you avoid some of the mistakes I made during my rookie years. If it does, give it the old thumbs up. Consider subscribing to our channel if you haven't done so already. And remember, the last thing this industry needs right now is more shitty instructors. Dive safe, dive often.